Hello and welcome to today's RIMS webinar sponsored by Prudent Insurance Brokers Private Limited. Transit losses in or out of control. My name is Justin Smollison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS, the Risk and Insurance Management Society. A few notes before we begin. If you have a question for the presenters during today's session, please submit them by writing in the question box. Feel free to ask at any point in the presentation. Our panelists will address as many as possible today, and they will also be gathered and the Prudent team will reply to you directly. Following this session, the recording will be available on Prudent's website and the RIMS online content library. That is through the on-demand page on rims.org. And all downloads and contact information will be accessible to the sponsor. And now let's meet our experts. We have an esteemed panel today. Mr. Amrit Pal Singh is an insurance professional with experience of around 18 years who is currently handling marine insurance portfolio at Flipkart Group. He has worked with RSA and Gallagher in previous assignments. Mr. Amit Amrawala is a versatile techno-commercial insurance professional with 2 decades of rich and diversified experience in marine underwriting, direct broking, and designing global master programs. Amit is a mechanical engineer, MBA, and a licensed trading commercial underwriter and certified risk engineer in his past assignments. And Captain Vijay Pal Singh comes with 30 years of varied experiences across the logistics industry. He is a master mariner and started his offshore adventure as principal surveyor in 2009, and in 2014, he joined Tata AIG General Insurance Company Limited. He is credited with creating many industry benchmarks, including optimal use of telematics and technology for safe cargo transportation and vessel selection, among others. And of course, please also welcome our moderator, Vignesh Chandrasekhar. Vignesh is a professionally qualified risk manager with expertise in enterprise risk management, loss control, and minimization. He has worked as a risk engineer and underwriter with Tata AIG before moving into a broking role with Aditya Birla Insurance Brokers. He has been associated with Prudent since 2021 and helps drive strategy and engagement of large clients from Mumbai, Pune, and Chennai branches. It is an honor for RIMS and Prudent Insurance Brokers Private Limited to host this webinar for a wonderful global audience. Please welcome our moderator, Vignesh Chandrasekhar.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all our participants from across the globe. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting webinar on cargo loss control presented by Prudent Insurance Brokers and RIMS, the Risk Management Society. Supply chains are the circulatory system of our economy. As the world has become increasingly interconnected, movement of cargo has become crucial to growing the global economy and facilitating global trade. The pandemic sent shockwaves through global supply chains, which spent much of 2021 playing catch-up. But while COVID-19 made a big impact, other disruptive events took their turn in the spotlight as well, including extreme weather, and more recently, the conflict in Ukraine, which has upset global supply chains. Such disruptive events put further pressure on ports and logistic networks already stressed by high demand. The spotlight now is squarely on how global supply chains can adapt to intensified disruption in today's world. Those charged with designing and managing supply chains must find ways to counter these negative influences. In today's webinar, we will aim to explore many of these areas to help our participants discover trends in cargo losses, understand key issues and challenges, and gain insights into practical cargo loss control. To aid us in this, we have an esteemed panel of experts from diverse backgrounds, experiences, and positions. It's an honor and a privilege for me to moderate this session. Before we begin, we would like to conduct a short poll to gauge the interests of our participants. You would momentarily be seeing a Mentimeter link with a QR code and a website address. I request all our participants to either scan the QR code or visit the web page. The page will have one question with multiple options, and once the answers start flowing in, we will share the results of this poll and begin our panel discussion. The QR code is visible on your screen right now. So I would request the participants to either scan the code that you see on the right-hand side or visit the website www.menti.com and enter this particular code. And please answer the question that is given once you enter the web page. Right, so we can see a lot of entries coming in. I think we'll give it about 10 seconds more. Right. I think the participants are really sharing what they would want as a key takeaway from this session. And I think in the interest of time, we'll just stop the poll here. Great. Well, I mean, the results are very interesting. More than 60% of participants want to have a greater understanding on the types of marine or cargo losses, with around 40% looking at suggestions for marine loss control. So we'll try our best with our panelists to ensure that both these requirements are met. And the stage is set now for a wonderful discussion on a fascinating subject. To get the ball rolling, let's go to Mr. Amit Umrawala. Amit, as someone with years of experience in marine insurance, you have seen this space transforming in front of you. What has been the trend that you have observed in cargo losses in these past few years?
Thanks, Vignesh. We have been witnessing technological advancement in each and every field and everywhere. Nowadays, like what we all are gathering on a virtual session. So why a shipping industry and vessels, be left behind? I have been reading somewhere that container carrying capacity of a container vessel has increased whopping 1,500% since 1968. So roughly over 50 years, and it has doubled in last 2 decades. What does that mean? It means that container carrying capacity of a vessel is increasing day by day. Hence, there is a more exposure, more value of the cargo on board of the vessel, as well as at the port of discharge. So what it means to insurance is, practically now it is very difficult for an insurance company to evaluate their exposure on vessel as well as at the port. While such large vessels bring a lot of economy of scale for the vessel operator, but at the same time, insurance exposures increases multifold on board of the vessel as well as at the port. And in last couple of years, we have seen some very big incidences of fire on board of the vessels, like Maersk Honam and Tianjin port in China. So the biggest trend what I have witnessed over a period of time is, container shippings are becoming bigger and bigger, and hence the insurance companies' exposure, is getting larger and larger the day goes by. What also I have observed is, the frequency of the losses has certainly gone down, but severity has gone up. Because nowadays the companies are building larger and larger container vessels. This is one of the trend which is very critical for insurance company. The second trend which I have been seeing is a container vessel fire. Though IMO has been canvassing that all the exporters who are exporting the cargo, they need to declare the content of the cargo in the container. but somehow it is not happening, and proper IMDG codes are not being displayed, which that is the reason the containers are not properly put on the vessel, and hence the fire is also, number of fire incidences are also increasing day by day. What also happens because of this is, the losses are getting larger and larger, fire losses are getting larger and larger, and also it impacts the fire dousing ability of the firefighting staff on board of the vessel. Collisions, sinking of the vessel, grounding of the vessel is also very common phenomena leading to general average claims. We have witnessed in last couple of years that a very large ro-ro vessel carrying very expensive luxurious car also sank. Container theft, theft from the seal intake containers for pharma goods, electronic items, mobile phones, they have been increasing day by day. And two of the very critical and very unique thing what I have observed over last couple of years during the COVID is, there were the drivers not available at the port of discharge. So the cargo was lying at the port unattended. Cargo theft happened. The second phenomena which I have observed was there were lack of containers. Container was not available. So exporter anyway have to find the way out to export their cargo. So what they have done is the cargo which was supposed to be sent in a container load, they were sent in a bulk, break bulk form. So insurers have also witnessed some of the claims because of this practice in last couple of years. These are the phenomena, particularly the lack of container and driver strike. These are the two unique things that we have observed post-COVID and during the COVID.
Right. You mentioned losses related to general average, fire, or theft are more prevalent or will be so going forward. What would you say are some of the key challenges you have faced as an insurer while managing these sort of marine cargo losses?
So Vignesh, basically, there are two type of losses that normally happens in a marine insurance. One is domestic claims, which normally they are hassle free, like flow of the documents and everything is so easy. But when when the claim is intimated out of India, there are typical challenges that we as insurers are facing. The biggest challenge is the time zone difference. Okay, so you intimate to the loss adjuster or your counterpart in those respective countries, there is always a lag. Language is again a very big barrier for a free flow of communication. Second more important part that we have come across is lack of surveyors and competent surveyors. Like suppose if there is a claim in Benin, some eastern part of Africa, we have to depute surveyor from South Africa. So those surveyors needs to apply for visa. It will take its own time. So it is quite possible that the loss gets aggravated, particularly for a perishable cargo, because India is one of the largest exporters for food items to the African countries. What normally happens is when there is a CIF contract, ultimate beneficiary is a consignee, not the shipper. So what happens is the consignee directly intimates the claim to the settling offices in those respective countries, and communication normally happens between the consignee and the loss adjuster office. And the customer who has taken the policy in India is normally he is not updated about the current status of the claim. So they keep on asking to the local insurer about the status of the claim, and perhaps the consignee is not informing them or updating them about the status of the cargo. One more very interesting thing that is happening in last few years is for a smaller claim, consignee debits the loss amount from the payable to the shipper. So there are very frequent requests from the Indian shipper to settle the exports claim in India. And we as an insurer find it very difficult because of the various FEMA regulation to settle those exports claim in India. So these are some of the things that we as insurers are facing, particularly for an export claim.
Thank you, Amit. I think these are valuable points that you have shared on cargo losses and related challenges. Well, we have heard from an insurer's perspective on loss trends and challenges with regards to cargo. Now let us hear from a corporate's perspective with Mr. Amritpal Singh. So Amrit, as an insured and a large corporate having transits and supply chain as a key business process, what are the challenges you have faced with regards to cargo losses?
Yeah, thanks Vignesh and the entire Prudent and Range team for having me here today, along with the distinguished guests. As far as cargo losses are concerned, as Mr. Amit Umrawala have already talked about the challenges being faced by insurer in imports and export scenarios where the exposure is much larger. Let me talk about the cargo losses scenarios which clients like us faces domestically. Now, as a user or client, our first priority is always to ensure interruption-free logistics flow. For any insured, I would say insurance claim is one part of the story. A major objective is to have claim-free logistics flow for everybody's good. But due to nature of cargo or other dynamics, losses like damage to the cargo, is a physical damage or theft, shortage losses, all these impact this flow, and these are all practical situations. Now, apart from these, predictable losses, I would say there could be situations where new business categories are being introduced during the policy period, which may alter the existing logistics flow, and which may warrant fresh understanding from insurer on the expected losses and the related documentation. So that is another challenge as far as cargo losses are concerned. Amit talked about COVID like situations. We all have been through that situation. The challenges which arises due to COVID like pandemic, lockdowns are everywhere, so stranded vehicles are there on the road, which this added to the uncertainty and this impact loss trends. So all these challenges are day to day, which in respect of cargo we face as a client.
Right. I think these are some interesting thoughts and points that you have raised, Amrit. Taking on the same point, what are your expectations from insurers in this regard?
Yeah, so as far as expectations are concerned from insurer, as I said, situations like COVID pandemic, which cannot be predicted. Flexibility with regard to, I would say, timelines and the claim documentation is expected. That is one of the asks from insurers, because in every insurance contract, where a large cargo is insured, there are set agreements on the timelines of the claim submission or the claim documentation submission. So that much flexibility we expect as one of the support from insurer. Another thing, with ever-changing business dynamics, where new business categories are being introduced regularly, adaptation to these realities in respect of claim documentation or what kind of claims will happen eventually in these new product lines, that flexibility we expect. And third critical area which I can think of is the salvaging. In a large supply chain, for example, in case of white goods, where the salvaging is of very tantamount importance. And in today's scenario, where a shipment needs to be delivered to the customer as fast as possible, and inventories are moving so fast, the damaged inventory occupying space at the warehouses of the clients for long, that also have cost impact. And quick turnaround times for critical operations like salvaging will also help in overhauling of the whole insurance portfolio, I would say.
Right. Thank you, Amrit. I'm sure our participants from the insurer fraternity have taken a note of these points. Speaking of, about the point of unpredictability mentioned earlier, I'll go back to Amit. Amit, how have recent, unpredictable incidents such as we had the Suez Canal blockade sometime back, or even the current situation in Ukraine or Russia, how have they impacted insurers' outlook towards cargo?
Yeah, very relevant question in current scenario. So, Vignesh, if you look at the sequence of events that took place, particularly for this Russia and Ukraine conflict, somewhere in the end of the February and beginning of the March, Russia invaded Ukraine. By the time, many of the customers' cargo was already there on the way to either to Russia or maybe, Belarus or Ukraine. So insurance companies' first reaction was, to make them aware about the incidences, and we have guided them what they need to do, because certain clauses of ICCA ask them to take permission of the insurance company, whether it is a termination of the voyage or maybe a diversion of the voyage. So that is what insurance company have done as a first step. And then, as in India, most of the marine policies are governed by sanctions and limitation clauses. Since the sanctions have been imposed by US, European Union, and many other UN also. So, looking to the current situations, a notice of cancellation of war risk has been sent to all insurers and insureds rather. Then later on, we also further clarified to the clients after getting more clarification from the reinsurers that, we can continue to have, coverages for entities other than those are sanctioned, not country as a whole, but the entities, those who are sanctioned, they may continue to have a, all risk cover, but war and strike risk continue to be excluded from that risk. Typically, what we as an insurance company were asking from the insured is to provide us some basic details like name of the vessel, what is the value, the route on which they are planning to move the cargo, and we were insurance companies were approving on case to case basis. However, the war and strike risk, as per the institute war clause and institute strike clause, were applicable as an exclusion, with some locations like Sea of Azov, Russian Black Sea territorial water, Ukrainian territorial water, and some of the Russian territories within 200 kilometers from the Ukraine border. So, insurance companies were offering the coverages, but war risk and strike risk were not offered that time. So, these were the changes happened post, Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Right. Thank you, Amit. You have mentioned a few key insights, which help lay the foundation to bring in the main topic for today's webinar, that is marine loss control. Can you touch upon the role that marine loss control plays in such situations?
Yeah, MLC as always has a very big role to play, in this situation also. Like, as I mentioned that, the sanctions or the approval of those consignments were based on some of the very key information about vessels, age of the vessel, route, etc. And, I think MLC is the right team to guide to the client about selection of the vessels, if they have selected the vessel, whether those vessels are within the approved criteria by insurers. So, MLC played a very crucial role, in guiding the clients under that situation.
Right. Thank you, Amit, for sharing, perspective from an insurer's basis. We touched upon some scenarios, on an international stage. Now, if we have to look at it from a regional perspective, I would like to bring in Captain Vijaypal Singh here. Captain Vijay, what are your views on the scenarios which may occur within India and neighboring regions, and how would marine loss control perceive and respond to them?
Yeah, good day to everyone. If we are, going to only talk about geopolitical situations within India, despite having tough neighboring countries, India still remains one of the safest countries to be affected by such situations. And geopolitical issues have really affected cargo movements within India, or even with most of these nations, like uh, countries like Nepal and Bhutan being landlocked from India, while India from all four sides, they heavily depend on the supply chains, or any disruption that happens within India. So the situation has never been so out of control that it has affected at the stage of what Ukraine and Russian situation has caused in the international stage. However, politically motivated attacks can cause brief disruption of supply chains, and state-wise disturbances are now predictable, and some annual events are also known to cause disruptions in supply chain. But more of these are less predictable, they are understandable. There are annual events now, not only geopolitical. Even if you are looking at inclement weather situations, they are now almost predictable to understand what's going to happen on the eastern coast or western coast. From the marine loss control perspective, MLC, as we call it, keeps an eagle eye on such situations, and what can be the possible effects of these scenarios, and adapt loss control measures accordingly. Usually, the first RFS point of defense is to send caution notices or warnings to clients and insurers, or moratorium notices in line with the international geopolitical situations are the first thing that we deal with. MLC keeps assessing this situation on day-to-day basis, and also keeps interaction with the insurers to understand what is their stand on or their reinsurer stands on the arising situation, and what changes are they going to do into their coverages. If I were supposed to speak about it on the international stage, I would say prudent marine loss control was first to send out warnings and updates on ever-changing scenarios of Ukraine-Russia conflict. So that are the situations that we deal on day-to-day basis. Geopolitical situations are changing very rapidly across the world, and presumably having early warnings, understanding the changing scenarios, dealing with the dealing and discussions, or I would say open communication with the clients and insurance is the key thing over here. Which can reduce losses or which can stop losses. As Mr. Amit Pal Singh and Mr. Amit Umrawala mentioned, COVID situation had caused a huge disruptions. So MLC with the insurers or with Prudent, we were able to figure out, walk with the clients, make them understand what's happening on the ground, liaise with the transporters, work on the ground with them to reduce the losses or ensure that whatever cargo is there on the road reaches the destination. So yeah, more or less, like we are good, and MLC has come a long way in India now, and we look to be of more value to our clients and insurers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Captain Vijay. You have brought forth some key ways in which marine loss control can add value. And one of the biggest benefactors of marine loss control are large corporates who have extensive supply chains. So at this point, I would like to bring back Mr. Amrit Pal. And Amrit, what role do you see marine loss control playing to counter challenges that corporates face with respect to cargo losses?
Yeah, so I would say MLC plays a very critical role in any logistics flow, and in a large organization, where there could be multiple touch points, multiple warehouses across India at various locations, and the grounds team, logistic teams are working, kind of in coordination in arranging the logistic supply chain for various kinds of products, which that business might be dealing in. So MLC, it can help in identifying the reasons for losses, if there are any losses happening regularly, and ways to address those concerns, those losses, ways to arrest that loss trend. So in a large organization, there could be multiple logistic chain depending upon the product lines. MLC can help in do study of those respective lines, loss trends, and analyze these logistics flows with respect to packaging, quality checks, and other aspects related to the flow chain. For example, if a particular say logistics line is giving more losses compared to with another logistics line within the same organization, There, MLC can help in identifying the reasons for the same and help in arresting the adverse trend. There are tools like root survey, etc., where MLC can help in kind of mitigate those losses.
You mentioned about multiple lines within a single corporate, and I think we all would agree that in any large organization, there would be involvement of multiple stakeholders when it comes to risk management, and cargo loss control isn't any different. What does it take for marine loss control to be effective within any organization?
Yeah, so clearly MLC, I would say, to put in a right perspective, it cannot work in isolation. I would say, ground teams like packaging, quality control, logistics teams working on the ground all should work in tandem in identifying any adverse trends. Another example where another trend where MLC can be of a great help. Any new product lines or any new logistics chains being for any new product lines, if those are getting implemented, MLC can play a proactive role there, and help the grounds team in designing the logistics flow. So various teams like packaging, product teams, logistics, they all need to work alongside the MLC team on the suggested methodologies to execute the logistics flow in such a way, I would say, that we proactively remove the loss making scenarios, or at least try to minimize those as possible, as minimum to as possible we can. So MLC would not work, I would say, in isolation. It has to work in coordination with the grounds team, logistics teams, products teams, and in a large organization, it is very critical. This coordination is very, very critical to achieve the end objective.
Right, definitely. I mean, implementation of recommendations is a key step in the entire cycle of loss control. Thank you, Amrit. I think many of our participants would be interested on this point about what are these recommendations, what are these practical steps that can be taken, and there is no better person than Captain Vijay on this topic. So, Captain Vijay, what would you say are some practical steps clients can take to reduce or minimize their cargo losses? Let's say in industries such as e-commerce, pharmaceuticals, cement.
Yes, Vignesh. Very interesting point, and a very valid point to be taken up. If I should be dividing your question into three parts. I would say two parts, right? Rather, because what happens on the land with the cargo and what happens with the cargo at sea. These are the two major stakeholders of the cargo. Air shipments and all that, railway movements are something which are very fast moving, which are very dynamic. So if we were supposed to start right from where the cargo is going to begin, it's definitely going to be a vehicle that is going to take cargo from the client's X location to the seaport or to the airport or to the railway point. So on land, once the cargo is ready for transit, the three main aspects that can cause cargo damages are probably the handling at various locations. It can be at the point where the cargo is getting loaded, or it can be at the CFS, or it can be at the airport. The vehicle and the driver, these are the two main key figures. If you check about the entire supply chain from the buyer to the receiver, these are the two elements which are beyond control of the person who is shipping the cargo, beyond the control of the person who is receiving the cargo. So having a good understanding of these two aspects other than handling, it makes very important aspect of loss control. But coming back to point zero is like how my client packs a cargo, starting right from packaging and labeling to understanding the complete dynamic of cargo transit, while in consideration of a transporter or a courier part can greatly reduce these losses. So the package should be marked very clearly. It should be labeled very clearly. We have had incidents where the cargo which was supposed to be sent in a negative is cold chain cargo has been sent in positive cargo because somebody forgot to read the minus sign in front of the cold chain mention, or vice versa. It has happened. It has happened when the cargo is supposed to be sent in a metal container. It has been sent in a cardboard container. So right from packaging and labeling, that makes a very huge difference. We're talking about air shipments. ITA has guidelines for marking temperature and time sensitive cargoes. The guidelines are there, available on their website, to be read and understood, and those types of signs and symbols to be posted on the cargo. During the course of marine loss control activities, we have observed, we have seen that 90% of cargo owners have no visibility of their cargo and the product in transit. They are of opinion that they have negotiated with the best of transporters, with the best of rates, and that is now the responsibility of a transport to ensure cargo is not damaged or lost during its transit. This is a very this is one of the very crux points that we have seen when we have gone on ground, and we have insisted clients to take a step back and understand, to begin with cargo owners, they should set out proper SOPs and checklists for their dispatch and logistics team as per the products and supply chain challenges. Logistics teams should order and instruct for right kind of vehicles and for right sources. You should not have an open body truck for a cargo which is very easily prone to theft or damages, wet damages. You cannot have a closed body truck for a chemical which evaporates during the course of transit. So they should ensure that the vehicle and driver are capable of carrying out the intended transit. So and dispatch teams who are going to get the cargo loaded onto the vehicles, they should ensure that the vehicle is loaded in such a manner that there will be at least I would say least or none to damages to the cargo. So when you're loading white goods, you have you can have the fragile items loaded in the front, heavier items at the back, because we all know the back part of the vehicle is more prone to jerks and jolts. Having the SOPs and checklists not only for till that particular point, but after that, once the vehicle is loaded, the lashing or covering of the vehicles is primarily left to the drivers of trucks and trailers, which is a very dangerous prospect. When a client has manufactured a cargo, he understands what are the dynamics of this cargo, how this cargo has been loaded onto the truck. So, but if the lashing and similar matters are left to a truck driver who has no knowledge, who does know the strength of this particular cargo, he is going after a particular chain lashing or a nylon belt lashing. So these are the key points, which are left open at the end of doing everything from manufacturing cargo to getting loaded to a vehicle. To a broad extent, that we have also observed that many clients have left the over-dimensional cargo also loaded onto the trailers, and lashing was left to the truck drivers, for whatever chains and turnbuckles they are going to use. And something as basic as covering a truck for wet damaged cargo, any cargo that is very possibly can get very easily damaged by rains. The covering of the vehicle is left to the driver. What kind of tarpaulins he's using, what kind of methodology he's using, what kind of ropes and all that he's using, nobody's bothered about. So these are some other points, some other checklists that either it can be inbuilt into the system, or it can be advised through trainings. Marine loss control MLC has been doing such trainings, has covered a lot of geography into that. We have set out many benchmarks into creating checklists for vehicle selection in the monsoons, how the cargo is supposed to be loaded and lashed, specifically for very commonly moving equipment. If you're just talking about overdimensional cargoes over here, you have excavators and JCBs moving on the vehicles, how they are to be lashed. So those checklists are available, and our clients and our insurers can make good of those checklists. For tracking point from here, going ahead, once the vehicle is on the road, today the use of technology can make not only assessing the location of the cargo, but also understanding how the driver or the vehicle is being driven on the road, and whether these dynamics are going to cause a cargo damage to the cargo loaded on the vehicle. And if we have done from there, the cargo has reached seaport or airport safely, and we'll choose seaport over here. We have seen, as Mr. Amit Umrawala mentioned, in recent times the major challenge has been acute shortage of containers, and this has led to cargo owners using alternate shipping methods, like wooden boxes, metal cases, even break bulk cargo. Though these custom-made objects, but they cannot provide a weatherproof safety of a shipping container. On other hand, the rising loss of containers actually has now become a day-to-day fear. You'd be surprised to know that in 2021, about 8,000 containers were lost at sea, and 2,000 of these containers lost from one single ship in Pacific Ocean. In fact, in 2020, beginning from January, The ships have already lost about closer to 2,500 odd containers, which is a very alarming number to count for. Addition to this, as again, taking a cue from Mr. Umrawala, he mentioned about maritime incidents. He talked about a ship going down with the shipload of luxury car that was Felicity Ace. But more alarming was Express Pearl, which was fully burnt. It burned to the skeleton and it ultimately sank near Colombo. And these incidents, more or less are related to misdeclaration of cargo within the containers, and it remains a huge challenge. Hazmat cargoes are declared as non-hazmat cargoes, which when loaded on deck or into a ship hold can cause fires or even explosions. And these ships, which are humongous in size today. When I was sailing, a 15,000 TEU ship was considered to be a behemoth, but today people are talking closer to about 28,000 to 30,000 TEU ships, container ships. So the dynamics have changed. The percentages of risk on these ships have changed. And the best thing that a client can do from his end, is ensure that whatever cargo they are loading into these containers or they are handing it to the CHs, that cargo should be, truly declared to the shipping lines that this is the cargo within the container. These are the precautions to be taken with it. More or less, you have IMDG symbols which can be pasted on the containers so that, it can be easily identified that this particular container is carrying hazmat cargoes. So, these are the challenges that we see at on land or at sea. At air, there are not much challenges rather than transshipment of cargo from one airport to another, from one aircraft to another aircraft, or at the destination airports. We'll touch that point later. And since you mentioned three fragments, of industry, we begin with e-commerce. Is from the marine loss control perspective, e-commerce is completely defragmented. Today, cargo contents can travel from seller to buyer through multiple layers with only technology holding them together. With new B2B and B2C players are sprouting like anything, offering dirt rates, which eventually causes cargo losses. In e-com industry, from buyer to seller as a first purchase is you have a complete visibility. You can see on your mobile phone that the product has left such and such facility, has reached such and such facility, and it's going to reach you. It's out for a delivery today. But the same thing does not happen for RTO or RVP cargo. That particular journey remains porous, and that is where the losses are as high as 68%. That means out of 100 shipments, as we are talking, 68 of these shipments would either be reported lost or stolen or declared untraceable without citing any reasons. And with huge volumes that e-commerce sector is moving today, marine loss control implementations become very difficult. By the time we implement something, the dynamics have moved. It's such a dynamic industry as of now today, and with everything moving from hard asset stores to online stores, this is increasing into challenge. That adds into storage value also, but we'll not touch that. And parking that over wherever it is, pharma is a specialized sector, and needless to say, every transit, every shipment should be handled with white gloves. Cold chain cargos still remain a huge challenge, despite having countless transporters providing specialized service with technology support. International shipments by Europe by sea have their own challenges and should be dealt accordingly depending on route and sensitivity of cargo. From client's end perspective, when they are packaging a cargo, whether it's a cold chain cargo, if it's an ambient temperature cargo, for a pharma and ambient temperature is anything that is not below above 25 degrees. So in a corporate world, that is the temperature of your office in a general time. So that is, you can't keep a pharma item, even the most basic pharma item, out of this temperature range. But if you're shipping these cargoes from India to Europe or to US, they might be transiting through countries like Dubai, Doha, Istanbul. And in summer months, if the transit is going to happen on the ground, from one aircraft to another craft, you can have a temperature excursion because the ground temperatures, the tarmac temperature at these airports reach as good as 55 degrees Celsius in the summer months, in the hard afternoon. Again, when the client is planning these shipments, he should understand from where the cargo is going to go. We have already talked about the transshipment location. The comes to the final location, where the cargo is going to get landed. In the Europe or in US or in Latin America or in Central America, whether those airports over there are, what kind of regulations do they have to clear these cargoes? how fast they can move, clear these cargoes. From best of my understanding, I know that Mexico takes 20 days to even, clear a pharma-like cargo from their airports. Uh, uh, for something, for a country like America, JFK Airport in New York does not have a cold storage, but LaGuardia, which is about 10 miles from JFK, has a cold storage. So if you're planning a shipment of pharma item or perishable cargo from here, it is better to send it to LaGuardia rather than sending to JFK if you know there will be a delay in the receivers taking the cargo from the airport. And that is, more or less the challenges. Pharma is as I said, is a specialized sector. Every transit, every shipment requires white glove handling. So it has to be observed on day-to-day basis, on a transportation to transportation basis, client to client basis, from location to location basis. Like all shipments to Russia have stopped now. So people are moving those cargoes through different regions, or there have been instances where clients have quoted telling us that they will be moving cargo from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and then to Russia. So sending that pharma type of cargo, if it gets stuck at any of these locations, a client is never going to get a claim, because he has to prove that there is a cargo damage, and if the cargo gets stuck, it's only dealt in delay of cargo. So those are the challenges there in the pharma sector, that if you're looking at this particular geography. But otherwise, pharma has to be taken very seriously. The shipment should be handled very carefully. It does not harm to have a interaction with marine loss control experts within the insurers, or with the brokers, or in-house risk managers, to have a complete visibility before shipping a cargo. You mentioned cement also. I believe overloading and wet damages remain the biggest challenges of cement transportation. Moving through trucking, MLC has had a great success in reducing the losses, but railway rake movements, railway siding, loadings and unloadings still remain a challenge. And as the monsoon months comes, the most marine loss control engineers, or people dealing in cement cargoes, or insurers of cement cargoes, sitting with the fingers crossed to just waiting for the claims to rain inside, because that is something which is beyond control of most of these people. And that is one segment that will take a long time to be covered under, I would say, under entire gambit of marine loss control activity. There remains a lot to be discussed here, which I'll request listeners that they can take it with me directly at their convenience.
Absolutely, Captain Vijay, and thank you for sharing those practical insights on cargo loss control, which I'm sure our participants would find extremely useful. And marine loss control is such a topic, it's very vast. It covers a lot of things. There are also aspects like over-dimensional cargo, which would be a separate session in itself. But given the time constraints that we have, so I think I'll have to sort of close the discussion over here, and bring about the Q&A session part of the webinar. There have been few questions that our participants have put in, but I would request many of you would also have further queries. So please put your queries in the Q&A chat, and we'll try our best to answer them. So we'll give about a minute or so for any further questions to come in, and then we'll take up the individual questions which the participants have put up.
Evolution, whether you're an individual or an organization, has a tendency to be driven by challenges. Challenges that have an inherent element of uncertainty. There are events that become the turning points of global economies, and only the fittest ones survive, pre to post such events. And now, even before economies could recover from the pandemic, a geopolitical event has taken place. Studies have shown a steady increase in volume and complexities of risks, higher than ever before. The world is now a global village. We're so fundamentally connected that the impact of regional disasters can no longer be contained locally. The emergence of a different operating reality has caught the incumbent executives and directors unaware. The challenges ahead of them is to manage the downside of the risk better, so that they can maximize the upside and hence be future ready. But these are the challenges that most of them have never faced before in their careers. At Prudent, we not only understand the world of risks, but also your business. We understand all the scenarios, know how to assess them, can prepare you for them, and help you control risks. We see it as part of our responsibility. Effective for traditional to new age, mid to large corporations, think of us as your trusted partner that mobilizes specialists in every field to make your risks manageable. For more information on customized solutions for your organization, log on to www.prudentbrokers.com.
I think we have got a few questions that have come in. So the first question, I think, is for Mr. Amit Umrawala, which is asked by Mr. Vishwadeep Chaliha. Mr. Amit suggested that a surveyor has to be appointed from South Africa, resulting in delay. Cannot Lloyd's agencies be used and settled? They are authorized and have an office in any country.
Yeah, Lloyd's agents, their representatives can always be appointed for a surveyor. There is no denial on the fact. We can always do that. My short and simple question is they can be utilized. They can be utilized based on, it depends upon insurance company to insurance companies. But yes, they are authorized to carry out the survey. And so what I mentioned was, this is one of the challenges. But to answer the question, yeah, they can be utilized.
Right. We have another question, and I think this is for Mr. Amritpal Singh. At what stage can MLCE activities be adopted by clients?
Okay. MLC activity, I would say, having heard that the all participant what they have to say, I would say MLC activity, there is no a fixed place to put those activities in. I would say it can be implemented at any stage. But yes, having said that, as I told earlier also, MLC activity can also be used proactively while setting up a new supply chain, new logistic chain. Proactively we can they can work with in tandem with the grounds team, like packaging, quality, logistic chain team, and in the designing stage only, so that any expected losses can be can be arrested there. And it will help in if it is being used as a proactive tool, it will help in minimizing those losses to great extent. And another perspective which I wanted to share is that for a client, for an insured, a claim is not always something which will give us back the whole value lost. Okay, we will get only certain percentage of the lost amount. The major loss we suffer is the loss of the client in this ever-changing, fast, competitive world. If my shipment is not getting delivered to my client on time, I will lose that client in this competitive world. So for me as a client, the loss is much larger than the insured value. So MLC definitely can be implemented at any stage. That's what I can say.
Right. We have another question, a question from Mr. Sagar Sanyal. Marine transportation systems are prone to cyber attacks. These are not covered under policy. Can you suggest some MLC measures for the same? I think Captain Vijay, would you like to take this question?
I agree that cyber, it's not covered under cyber attacks, and marine policy also doesn't have something for it. But then this is a kind of a complete risk in itself altogether. As far as MLC is concerned, the documentations which are being sent from one point to another, the security of emails, how the email protocols are followed, when you're sending documents out to various stakeholders who are going to receive cargo, who are going to send cargo. These emails specifically, the emails are the biggest form of communication today, definitely, and with those goes the the cyber thing travels from one point to another. If you are able to ensure that whenever you are replying to these emails, you are sending attachments of these with these emails, you send it to specific people only. You don't send it across to everyone, that reply to all is should not be the mode of communication. In cyber, from whatever I've learned, whatever attacks that we have observed, right from Maersk ransomware attack, is that taking precautions at the level of, and you're communicating with whom you are communicating, who is communicating with you, what kind of links or I would say attachments that you're clicking upon, that makes a tons of a difference. So over there, more or less, a cyber training would help you out in easily identifying your in-house corporate systems. Their firewalls will assist you over there. But on yourself, on your own machine, it is best to open emails known from sources, open attachment known from known sources, send mails to known people only. Don't send it to reply to all. You don't know whom you are all sending the mails, whom all of these documents are going back to. If there is a ghost email ID or hidden in any of them, if there is a replicated one. So once these documents are out in the open, anyone can go and take custody of your cargo. So that are the challenges that I have observed, and these are things that we tell them on the ground. Otherwise, cyber crime itself is a subject in itself, which has to be covered separately.
Right. We have almost reached 5 p.m. So in the interest of time, we'll take one more question. This is again, Captain, I think you would be the best to answer this. This question is by Mr. Sarvana Muthu from Royal Enfield. They are in the process of initiating Internet of Things to control the transit loss. How it will help to evaluate this, and whether this is advisable to initiate this activity of bringing in Internet of Things to control the transit loss.
Yeah, in fact, it's a it's nice to be interacting with Royal Enfield, and again, because I have been to the Chennai plant and to about 5 of their warehouses across India, and it was at that time only the discussion about IoT was going on, and that was where in my presentation also I said that the IoT devices, when he's using the word IoT, he's using the right word. He's not only talking about GPS trackers. Having IoT device on board will give you what kind of dynamics the vehicles are being driven, what kind of how these drivers are driving the vehicle, how this vehicle is moving on the road, how the vehicles are harsh braking or harsh acceleration. Because when we are talking about Royal Enfield, they are the heaviest motorbikes to per se. And the vehicles which are loading them on twin decks inside the truck. So if they are a harsh acceleration, harsh braking, the kind of choking that they do with the vehicles to hold them still on the vehicle, that on the truck, on the car carrier, or I would say vehicle carrier, with that kind of driving behaviors, those seats get damaged, the mud guards and the headlights get damaged. Those scratches and dents are very common scenarios that we had observed when I had done MNC for Royal Enfield. So yes, please be very serious about implementing IoT. Please ensure that you have full visibility of how your vehicles are being driven on the road. What are the dynamics at what this guy is driving day in, day out. And, it should send out real-time alerts. It should not happen that, at the end of the journey, you come to know that this was how the entire thing has moved from Chennai to Punjab or Chennai to Kerala, which are the 2 biggest markets for Royal Enfield. These are again long transits from Chennai. So, they should be very serious, and, he can connect with me directly, and I would be happy to guide him along, what baby steps to be taken to ensure that whatever they're implementing, because they're putting their money over there, that, it's a success.
Right. I think we are getting a lot more questions, but given the paucity of time, for all of those of you who have put in your questions, be rest assured that we'll get back to you individually to have these questions cleared up. I think, we would all agree that this has been an insightful and an informative session. And before we conclude today's session, we would just be putting up another poll, which is a question to help us understand what our participants would be interested to attend the next session on. So I would request all our participants to once again either scan the QR code or visit the website link. So I would like to thank our panelists today, Mr. Amritpal Singh, Mr. Amit Umrawala, and Captain Vijaypal Singh, for sharing their experience and knowledge with us. I'm sure our participants have gained new insights on marine cargo and loss control. And for any queries, please do reach out to us at consulting@prudentbrokers.com. That's it from my side. I'll hand it back to Justin to conclude the session.
All right. I would like to thank all of our guests, Amritpal Singh, Amit Amrawala, Captain Vijay Pal Singh, and our moderator, Vignesh Chandrasekhar, and to all of you for joining us. A copy of this webinar will be archived on Prudent's website and the on-demand videos page of rims.org within a few business days. Be sure to check out RIMScast. That is the Society's official free and weekly podcast. It is hosted by yours truly. Jyoti Krishnan of Prudent is my guest this week on RIMScast to discuss cyber, Métis, and certain. Visit rims.org/RIMScast, and you can hear it and subscribe through your favorite podcasting apps. Also, visit the risk knowledge page on rims.org for special RIMScast episodes I produced with Vignesh, as well as with Deepak Madan and Dev Bhutani of Prudent, and we talked about ESG. RIMS also has 2 events coming up you should know about. The RIMS ERM Conference 2022 will be held November 10th and 11th in Indianapolis, Indiana in the US. Registration is open for attendees. Visit the events page on rims.org for that information, and keep checking the events page on rims.org for announcements about the RIMS South Asia Risk Forum, which will be December 2nd and 3rd in Mumbai, India. Finally, RIMS is global, and we'd love for you to build your network with us. Visit rims.org/membership to apply for RIMS membership. This was a fantastic session. I want to thank you all for joining us. Please stay safe.